Family Guy has gotten away with things no other show on television would even pitch in a writer's room without someone getting fired. It's pushed so far past the line that, more than once, the people in charge looked at a finished episode and seriously considered burying it forever. Some got pulled, some got edited into a different shape, some sat on a shelf for years before anyone dared to air them. Today we're counting down the darkest Family Guy episodes they almost banned, and the reasons why are wilder than the jokes themselves. Because here's what most fans don't realize. The line for what Family Guy can air isn't drawn by good taste. The show abandoned good taste in the first season. The line is drawn by something much harder to predict. Real-world events, advertiser panic, and the rare occasions when even Family Guy looked at its own joke and flinched. And that gives us 3 categories of almost banned, which is exactly how we're going to count this down. There are the episodes pulled because reality got too close. The episodes pulled because the subject matter was simply too dark to sell ads against. And the rarest of all, the episodes the show itself decided crossed a line it didn't want to cross. By the end, you'll understand the exact anatomy of what it takes to scare a show that's afraid of nothing. Let's start with the first category, the episodes that ran headfirst into real life. Family Guy's biggest enemy has never been the censors. It's been timing. The show writes and animates episodes months in advance, which means a joke that was harmless when it was written can become a nightmare by the time it airs, if something terrible happens in the real world in between. The show has had episodes that, through pure bad luck, lined up with real tragedies in ways that made them impossible to air as planned. When that happens, the network doesn't hesitate. The episode gets pulled, sometimes for years, sometimes permanently, sometimes quietly re-edited so the unfortunate overlap is scrubbed out. And here's why this is so fascinating. These weren't the episodes anyone was worried about during production. They were normal, by Family Guy standards. It was the world that changed around them. There's something genuinely eerie about a cartoon accidentally predicting or echoing a real event so closely that it has to be hidden. It's the kind of coincidence that makes you wonder how thin the wall really is between a joke and a prophecy. Here's the first signpost. The episodes pulled for real-world reasons tell you something important. Family Guy isn't dangerous because it's cruel. It's dangerous because it's reckless with topics that the real world treats as sacred, which means when reality and the show collide, the show always loses. Hold on to that idea, because it explains the whole pattern. Now let's move into the second category, and this is the bigger one. The episodes that were too dark to sell. Television isn't really in the business of art. It's in the business of selling advertising. And advertisers are skittish creatures. They do not want their family-friendly product appearing next to certain subjects, no matter how the show frames them. Family Guy has built entire episodes around topics so taboo that, even when the jokes technically aired, they did so with advertisers fleeing and networks sweating. Some of these episodes were nearly shelved, not because they weren't funny, but because no one wanted to be the brand attached to them. These are the episodes that deal with the absolute heaviest material the show has ever touched. Subjects that most shows wouldn't go near with a 10-foot pole, handled with the show's signature shrug. And the truly disturbing part is how casual the show is about it. There's a specific feeling you get watching one of these, a kind of nervous laugh that catches in your throat, where part of your brain is amused and another part is asking how this was ever allowed on a screen. That tension, that flinch, is exactly what made the Suits consider pulling the plug. Let me plant something for the end here. The episodes that got the closest to being permanently banned weren't the goriest or the most violent. They were the ones that targeted something specific, something the audience holds sacred in a personal way. Keep that in mind, because the single most dangerous thing Family Guy can do isn't shown in blood. It's shown in who it dares to mock. Let's keep going, because there's a whole tier of episodes that survived only because they were edited into a softer version. This is the show's escape hatch. When an episode is too hot to air as made, but too expensive to throw away, the editors get to work. Lines get cut, scenes get trimmed, whole jokes get reanimated or removed. The version that finally airs is a ghost of the original, and somewhere in a vault sits the real one, the one that was too much. Fans have spent years hunting for these original cuts, trading rumors about what was really in them, and the legend of the uncut episode has become its own kind of dark mythology around the show. Think about what that means. There are versions of Family Guy episodes that the general public has never seen and may never see, deemed too dangerous to release even by a show whose entire brand is going too far. If the public version already made you wince, your imagination is now doing the work the censors prevented, and that's almost scarier than seeing it. Now we reach the rarest category of all, the payoff. The episode's Family Guy almost banned itself. This is the one nobody expects. Every so often, the show's own creators look at a finished episode and decide it went somewhere they're not comfortable with. Not because a network told them to, because they felt it. For a show built on the principle that nothing is off limits, these moments are extraordinary because they reveal that even Family Guy has a floor, a point where the joke stops being a joke and becomes something the writers themselves don't want their name on. These are the episodes where the show's conscience, the one it pretends not to have, briefly woke up, and that's the payoff to everything we planted. The darkest Family Guy episodes aren't dark because of gore, or shock, or how many lines they cross. They're dark because of the moments where the show accidentally revealed it knows exactly where the line is. A show that truly didn't care wouldn't pull anything. The fact that some episodes scared even the people who made them proves that Family Guy's recklessness isn't blindness, it's a choice. They know precisely how dangerous their jokes are, which means every time they cross the line on purpose, they meant it. Let me walk you through what actually pushes an episode toward the banned pile, because the pattern is more specific than people think. The first trigger is real-world overlap, and it's the one the show can't control at all. An episode gets written, drawn, and locked months ahead of time. Then something happens in the world, a tragedy, a disaster, a headline, and suddenly a perfectly normal joke lines up with real pain in a way nobody could have predicted. The network's response is instant and merciless. The episode gets yanked off the schedule, sometimes delayed for years, sometimes quietly re-edited so the unfortunate scene is gone, and occasionally locked away for good. The most haunting part is that these episodes were never meant to be offensive. The world simply moved underneath them, and they got buried for a coincidence. The second trigger is the sacred subject. Family Guy will joke about almost anything, but there's a difference between shocking an audience and touching something the audience holds sacred in a personal, protective way. When the show aims at the topics people guard most closely, the ones tied to grief, faith, or the kind of loss that doesn't heal, that's when the complaints flood in and the advertisers start backing away from their seats. The show can survive being gross. It can survive being mean. What it struggles to survive is making people feel like something they love was desecrated. That's the line that gets episodes flagged for real. The third trigger is the one that surprises everyone, the show flinching at itself. There are rare moments where the writers finish an episode, watch it back, and feel something they almost never feel, hesitation. Not because a censor told them to, because the joke landed in a place even they didn't want to stand in. For a show that prides itself on fearlessness, that internal flinch is the most revealing thing it ever does, because it proves the recklessness was always a choice, never an accident. And here's the proof that ties these triggers together. The episodes that came closest to permanent burial were almost never the bloodiest or the most violent. Gore is cheap. The show throws it around constantly and nobody blinks. The truly dangerous episodes were the ones that got quiet and specific, that aimed at one tender, protected thing and refused to look away. That's the real measure of how far Family Guy can go. Not how much it shows, but how precisely it can hit the one nerve an audience will not let you touch. Think about the fan culture that's grown up around all of this. There are episodes people have heard about for years but have never actually seen in their original form. There are scenes that exist only as rumors, traded in comment sections, described secondhand by people who claim they caught the version that aired once and never again. That mythology is its own proof of how dark the show was willing to get. You don't build legends around tame material. You build them around the stuff someone decided you weren't allowed to see. So here's the bigger idea this teaches you about comedy and about the show. The funniest, most fearless comedy isn't made by people who don't understand boundaries. It's made by people who understand them perfectly and dance right up to the edge on purpose. The almost banned episodes are the proof. They're the moments where Family Guy got so close to the cliff that even it had to step back. And in stepping back, it showed us exactly how high the cliff really was. And there's something almost respectful in that, as strange as it sounds. A show that buries one of its own episodes is admitting that comedy has weight, that words and images can land hard enough to wound, that it's just a joke has a limit. Family Guy spends most of its time pretending that limit doesn't exist. The almost banned episodes are the rare confession that it does. They're the show quietly telling you that it knew, all along, exactly how sharp the knife was, and on a handful of occasions it decided not to throw it after all. There's also a question worth asking about why Family Guy specifically keeps surviving things that would end other shows. Part of it is the animation. A live-action show that went this far would feel unbearable, because real faces and real bodies make dark material hit too hard. Animation gives the show a permission slip. The bright colors, the cartoon physics, the silly voices, they all create just enough distance for the audience to laugh at something they'd never tolerate with real actors. That distance is the show's armor, and it's exactly why the almost banned episodes are the ones where the animation stopped being enough, where the subject was so heavy that even the cartoon framing couldn't soften it. Part of it is also reputation. After enough years, Family Guy earned a kind of immunity. Audiences come in knowing what they signed up for, which means the show can air things a newer program never could, simply because everyone agreed in advance not to be surprised. But that immunity has limits, and the buried episodes are where it ran out. When even longtime fans, the people who came specifically for the shock, recoil from a joke, that's the signal that a line was crossed, not the line of good taste, but the deeper line of what an audience will forgive. And that's the strange genius of it. The show has spent decades training us to accept more and more, raising our tolerance one episode at a time, which means the only way left to actually shock us is to go somewhere even our raised tolerance can't follow. The almost banned episodes are the show testing the ceiling of its own audience, and the ones that got pulled are the moments it found the ceiling and went straight through it. Next time you watch an episode that makes you gasp, ask yourself which category it belongs to. Is it reckless timing, advertiser poison, or one of the rare ones the show itself wasn't sure about? Once you know the 3 reasons an episode gets buried, you start to see the show's hidden boundaries everywhere, and the comedy gets a whole lot more interesting. So which Family Guy episode do you think went too far? Which one shocked you the most, or which one have you heard about but never actually seen? Drop it in the comments because I want to know which ones still haunt you. If this pulled back the curtain on the show for you, hit that like button and share it with the friend who thinks nothing on TV is shocking anymore, because they clearly haven't seen the cuts that never aired. And stick around, because banned episodes are just the start. Next, we're counting every single time Family Guy went way too far and somehow got away with it completely.